In one of my recent videos, I was making some beef tallow out of beef fat and I was melting it, and at the same day I also took out some of these pork roasts with the rind on them, and I'm cutting off the rind so that we can eat that from the air fryer, and the rest of the meat I'm cutting up into smaller pieces to put into my meat grinder. And I also took these 3 big roasts out, and I'm doing the same with those. In December every year, these kind of pork roasts called flæskesteg is really cheap in Denmark because a lot of people are eating those around Christmas time. So they go for around 20 kroner per 1 kilo. And 20 kroner is about $3 a kilo, so that is extremely cheap. If I had to buy minced pork, I would be paying at least 50, 60, maybe 70 kroner per kilo, and that is almost $10 a kilo. So this way I can mince my own pork and get it for really, really cheap. So as I mentioned before, I'm just cutting it up into smaller pieces. This one has been thawing for a little while, but it's still pretty frozen. So it's a little hard for me. I have to let them thaw a little longer. So I just cut off the rinds and I'm putting those back into the freezer for now, so we can have them some other day. And they're really good with a little salt, and then into the air fryer they will get really crispy. So now the roast has thawed a little longer, and I cut up one of them so I can put that into my mincer and mince the meat. And now that I am done with my first batch, I will just put the meat into this tub and put it in my fridge, and then I will keep on going with the mincing until I'm finished. I will make a lot of meatballs out of this with different flavors, and I have these really big garlic heads, and I'm just going to prepare all of them, even though I'm not going to use them all for this, but then I just have them ready in my fridge. And these are some that I bought, and the onions I grew myself, but the garlics are a lot bigger than my onions, as you can see. I hope that next year or next season I will get a lot bigger onions in my garden. The garlics are already sprouting, so that's also a good reason to use them up now. And you can see just how big these garlic cloves are. I really like big garlic cloves because that makes it a lot easier to prepare them. And these are the cloves from just 1 head of garlic, so that really shows how big they are. And here you can see them next to my small onions, so the garlic is maybe 50% bigger than the onion. These are some really nice big garlics. And now that the garlics are prepared, I'm going to prepare the onions, and I'll just remove the skins and the bottom tops, and then I'll just cut them into a little smaller pieces so that they can go into my mincer as well, so I don't have to chop them up on my cutting board. And I will just do the same with the garlic. And now I'm ready to go on with making my meatballs. I have all of my onions and garlic, and I cut up some more of those pork roasts, and I'm ready to mince it all. So I will alternate meat and some onion and garlic and so on, just to make sure that it will get mixed up into the meat really well. I also have some different spices and some of my homemade jars with cowboy candy and some other stuff, some leftovers that I will all put into some of these meatballs, and I will make 3 different kinds. I also prepared my eggs here. I just washed them because they were a little dirty. And I'm really happy about this mincer attachment to my mixing machine. It's a Carnivore, and it goes really easy with mincing meat and other stuff. Now I'm ready to spice up this first batch, so I'm putting in some salt, some pepper, And to this first batch I'm putting in 3 eggs. And to mix it up really well, I'm also using my mixer here. So I'm just putting on this attachment and putting the bowl under, and then I'm just letting it mix until I think it's really well incorporated and I'm ready to make all of the meatballs. And it doesn't really have to mix that long, maybe 30 seconds to a minute or so, just till you think it's looking nice. Then I'll take this batch and put into another tub and into the fridge, and then I will make the other 2 flavors before I will form them into meatballs, just so that I'm done with this step. And here you can see the consistency, and it's really nice, a little sticky, but not too much, and they will be really easy to form into meatballs. And I didn't put any flour or anything like that into them. And that first batch was just a really simple one with only the salt, pepper and a little onions. The next one will be a lot more flavorful. I will put in a lot of garlic and a lot of spices. I also have these frozen garlic tubs that I will put in the mincer so that they will get cut up really small. And this is some of my homemade sambal oleg and some kawa candy and pickled peppers, and these will also go into this first recipe with the chilies. Just look at all of those colors, it's really pretty. Now I'm going to put in all of the other spices and the eggs, and this one will get 4 eggs because it's a little bigger of a portion. And now I'm putting in the salt. The black pepper, and I'm also using 2 different kinds of sweet dried peppers. I'm also putting in some onion powder. And I'm also just mixing this the same way as the other batch, and I'll also put this into its own tub and into the fridge. And now on to the third and final batch of meatballs. In this one I'm also mincing up some of those garlic tubs. And I have a little rest here of some pickled peppers that I'm putting into the mincer. And some of my cowboy candy. I have this little bit in the small jar, and then I have another jar that is full, and I'll also put that one in. And a tiny bit of my homemade ketchup as well. And now I'm ready for all the other add-ins. This one will get 3 eggs. And some salt and onion powder, black pepper and some sweet red pepper. I also have this dark pepper that I'm putting a tablespoon in. And then this will also just get mixed up really well, and then I'm ready to form all of my little meatballs. And I will bake them in my air fryers because I have those out here. This is not my kitchen. This is kind of a building next to my kitchen where I'm doing a lot of my meal prep. And I'm weighing out all of my meatballs to approximately 100 grams so that they will get even sized. And I have this little liner in my air fryer so they are easy to get out, and it's also easy to clean afterwards. And I can have 9 in this air fryer at a time, and I will start with giving them about 10 minutes on 200 degrees Celsius. Then I will check on them and see if I need to flip them or they will need a little longer. And remember, I'm meal prepping those, so they will go into the freezer, a lot of them. And that's why I will not cook them for as long as if I would have been eating them right away, just to make sure that they will not dry out. So I can always take them from the freezer and put them into the microwave or into the air fryer and heat them back up and maybe crisp them up a little. So this color that they have now where they're just cooked through is actually the best way to do it if you're meal prepping to put into the freezer. And as you can see here, it is cooked through, so they are edible now. And then I have this other air fryer where I can put them into 3 layers. These first 4 big ones are to some of our friends that are sick right now, so I'm going to make them a meal, and they cannot tolerate chili and peppers and so on. So I made those first and put them on the top rack, and then I can make the other ones for ourselves. And then every time the first or the top rack is done, I will move them up in the air fryer just to make sure that they will all get done. And every time a batch is finished, I will take them out and put them onto this cooling rack with some parchment paper on, just to let them cool off before I will package them into bags and put them into the freezer. And here you can see all 3 layers, and in the other one that's just the 1 layer. So I can make a lot of meatballs at the same time just in these 2 air fryers. Now I'm on to my last batch, that one that hadn't any chilies or anything in it, the plain one. And this is how far I'm getting now. This first batch that's on that plate I will put into the fridge so that they can cool off entirely before I will bag them. And on my bags I will always put the kind of food that's in them and the date, and I will only put on the month and the year because sometimes things just get lost in the freezer. And these are some of the last ones. Some of them got a little overcooked, so we will just eat them instead of putting them into the freezer so that they won't get too dry. Now I'm just packaging up some of the other ones, and I will put them into separate bags so that I have the plain one in one bag and then the first kind with chilies in another, and so on. And beside the ones that we were eating right after, I got 4 big bags to the freezer. And this is some of the rest of the minced meat that I made, and I will also put this into the freezer so we have a lot of that on hand. And these are just some pictures of all of these yummy meatballs. I really like to meal prep like this, especially on keto and carnivore, so I will just have a lot of readily available things to eat in the freezer. I can just take a few of them out every day and thaw them or heat them in the microwave or in the air fryer. So it couldn't be easier to stay on track. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and follow along on my journey where I try to lose 200 pounds. Bye bye.